Die Financial Action Task Force is 'n internasionale finansiële waghond. Hulle waarsku indien Suid-Afrika nie vinnig homself regryk nie, gaan die land geplaas word op 'n lys van lande wat nie streng teen geldwassery en die finansiering van terreur optree nie. 'n Plek op hierdie sogenaamde gryslys kan ernstige gevolge hê. Busisiwe Mavuso is die hoof van Business Leadership South Africa. Busi, so what is it that is worrying the Financial Action Task Force about South Africa?
Thank you very much, Lorenza, and thanks for inviting us. So the main issue for FATF, is that recommendations were given to South Africa a year ago in terms of how we actually strengthen our money laundering control environment, and we have actually failed to implement those recommendations. There was about 17 recommendations ranging between strengthening the hawks, for instance, making sure that we deal and accelerate the cases in as far as the state capture project is concerned, making sure that we actually look at our money laundering, our system, and ensure, that those illicit financial flows that flow through the country, are better controlled, and there were all those interventions that were actually put through, clear recommendations. I think one of the recommendations, for instance, was how do we actually strengthen and properly define, the politically exposed person, definition, and we have actually failed to actually do all of those things. But when you look at what is at the crux of the issue, this started with the state capture project. The state capture project was sustained for more than 10 years in the country, and they are saying if you sat in this environment for more than 10 years as a country, it is clear that the control environment in South Africa is weak. Where were the hawks? Where was the NPA? Where was the broader criminal justice system? Where was the South African Reserve Bank? Where was the National Treasury? Because these are all layers that should have detected that something is wrong. And because there was no detection, or even if there was detection, there was nothing that was actually done to actually intervene and stop what was happening in the country. FATF is saying that you pose a high risk as South Africa in as far as being, an environment for money laundering, and they're saying that unless and until you fix this, we are actually going to put you on a grey list, which is not good news for South Africa at all.
What would the consequences be if we are put on that grey list?
There's funders and there's investors who actually have a standard against dealing with countries who are grey listed. So it might mean that the investment drive that we're on as a country, we're not going to be able to implement it. It means that it's going to be more difficult for us to just trade with international investors. Bankers are actually going to be required to do more in terms of dealing with other banks internationally. It means that we might not even be able to access funding from the IMF, from the World Bank, from the EU, because it poses certain risks in as far as accessing, those monies are concerned. So there's broader implications to it, but it just certainly means, that South Africa is going to be viewed, and put in a totally different light when it comes to how international trade is actually dealt with us. I think if you look at it, for instance, Lorenza, you will see that it's Pakistan actually. Pakistan has actually taken about 4 years while they've been on the FATF to actually get off FATF. And when you see in terms of what has happened in that economy, you will see that the economy has shrunk with about 38 billion, US dollars. You will see that all those sectors that are there in the economy have actually been seeing less economic activity, so there has been an intensification and more deprivation, in as far as that economy is concerned. So South Africa is actually facing exactly the same thing if we don't deal with this thing.
Sim Chabalala of Standard Bank has said that it might actually be even worse than a ratings downgrade.
It is.
Do you agree?
It absolutely is, because we stand to have about 2% of our economic growth wiped off, which means that if you agree that South Africa has actually been growing at about 2%, for the past 7 years, we are facing negative economic growth as a country. The 333 billion, for instance, investment commitments that we got this year during the investment conference that was hosted by the president, it might mean, that some of those investors can actually pull out, because there are laws in their countries against investing in countries that are grey listed. You know, it means that the 46% unemployment that we're currently sitting with in terms of the expanded definition, where you have more people that are unemployed than those that are employed in all the provinces except Gauteng and the Western Cape, the chances for us to solve for that as a country are now much more slimmer. We could be seeing unemployment rising precisely because of the fact that investment is not going to be coming through. The 65% youth unemployment is going to be more. And I think you just have to look at what is that going to do to our environment. If we already have so much high social instability, you know, if you impose grey listing on the tough economic environment that we're already facing as a country, you will see that whatever efforts that we are putting in place as a country are actually going to be futile. The president, for instance, just now announced the energy plan. That energy plan is going to be a useless exercise if there isn't funders and investors that are interested in investing in South Africa, and that is what the implications are. But when you also look at why have we not paid attention, you know, to these recommendations.
Is government not serious about heeding these warnings?
Right, there's actually no warning. But I think, Lorenza, it actually goes to the issue of a capable state. Do we have the right people in government that we're actually, you know, giving them the responsibilities in terms of implementing this? I don't think we understood as a country what a grey listing means, you know, and now, you know, we are waking up at the 11th hour and we have to actually respond by October. Very little has been done, you know, and we're all running around, and I think there isn't really a plan, you know, in terms of ensuring that we implement this. So I think the issue of a capable state, you can see that it actually sits, you know, as the basis of why we are fundamentally falling apart as an economy. And I think the issue of South Africa being grey listed, you know, is actually going to fall on the head of government precisely because they have failed to implement what they needed to implement when they had a year to actually deal with this.
So just shortly, in 30 seconds, do you think we should hold our breath for a solution or a way to fix this problem before October?
No, I don't think so. If you speak to the South African Reserve Bank, they are saying it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to be grey listed. If you're speaking to the National Treasury, it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to be grey listed. I've written to Parliament to request that we urgently look at this. I've gotten an acknowledgement, but there isn't a sign that we're actually dealing with this. So I think we must actually prepare for a grey listing and what that is going to mean for the South African economy.
Busisiwe, thank you so much.
Thank you.